Every May, my roses burst blood red over one patch no one ever weeded. I smiled and said it was bone meal. Truth is, I planted them the night I buried my only boy, 1973, lightning flashing, his father's hands still muddy. 50 years I watered that lie with tears. Last week the county sent bulldozers for a sewer line, and the roots finally screamed. Hello, sweet souls. I'm Evelyn, Grandma Evie to most, 80 years old, voice like a cracked teacup, hands that still smell of earth and regret. I've lived in the same white clapboard house on Willow Creek, Tennessee since Truman was president. What I'm about to tell you started in these rooms, ended in my garden, and took half a century to finish. Brew a strong cup of tea, pull your chair close. This one's long, heavy, and ends with sunrise. Willow Creek in the early 1960s was the kind of place postcards were invented for. Red dirt roads, porch swings creaking in rhythm with cicadas, air thick with honeysuckle and fresh-cut hay. Our farmhouse sat at the end of Dogwood Lane, hydrangeas spilling over the picket fence like laughter frozen mid-burst. Clarence, my husband, farmed tobacco and corn. I canned peaches, mended overalls, and raised our son Tommy. Blonde curls that caught sunlight like spun gold, gap-toothed grin wide enough to shame the moon. Nostalgia is a gentle knife when I remember those mornings. Tommy padding barefoot across the kitchen linoleum, bare knees dusty from the yard, begging for one more pancake before chores. I'd flip it high. He'd catch it on his plate with a whoop. Clarence would ruffle his hair, baritone humming, "I'll fly away," while the percolator gurgled. We'd eat on the back porch, mockingbirds answering Clarence's tune. The three of us a perfect chord. Tommy was 7 the first time Clarence's belt sang. I was in the pantry when I heard the whistle, leather cutting air, then Tommy's sharp cry. I ran in to find him curled on the floor, red welts blooming across his shoulder blades. Clarence stood over him, face purple, Bible open to Proverbs. "Spare the rod, spoil the child," he quoted, voice thick with moonshine. I knelt, cradling Tommy, whispering, "Mama's here, baby, Mama's here," while guilt gnawed my ribs like a trapped animal. Conflict started as a whisper. I loved Clarence, the boy who'd carried me over puddles at our courthouse wedding, who built this house plank by plank. But love curdled when it wore bruises. I begged him to stop. He promised after every bender. Tommy learned to flinch at sudden movements, to sleep lightweight in case boots stomped down the hall. By 1970 he was 14, tall as Clarence, voice cracking between boy and man. He took jobs, mowing lawns, hauling hay, saving every dime in a Folgers can hidden under his mattress. "Gonna buy a bus ticket to Nashville, Ma," he'd say, eyes shining. "Be a singer. You'll sit front row." I pressed a 20 into his palm the week he died, heart splitting down the middle. "For the road," I whispered. He kissed my cheek, stubble scratch, sunshine smell, and promised to write. August 12th, 1973. County Fair in full swing, Ferris wheel lights blinking through our windows, smell of funnel cakes drifting on humid air. Tommy had a date with Susie Miller. He wore his one good shirt, hair slicked with water. I tucked him in at 10 even though he was too old for it, habit stronger than sense. "Lock the door after I leave, Ma. Clarence is at the VFW. I nodded, already tasting dread. Thunder cracked at midnight. Clarence stumbled in, whiskey sour on his breath, roaring about missing money, $50 from the cookie jar, Tommy's savings. Words flew like shrapnel. "It's mine, earned fair," Tommy shouted, voice steady for the first time. Clarence's fist answered. I screamed, lunged between them, but Clarence shoved me aside. Tommy bolted into the storm. Clarence followed, belt coiled like a snake. I waited on the porch, rain plastering my nightgown, lightning strobing the garden. Hours bled. At 3:17 a.m, Clarence returned alone, mud to his knees, eyes wild. "Boy ran off," he slurred. "Good riddance." I searched every road, every ditch, until sunrise painted the sky bruise purple. Police took a report. Runaway teen. Case closed in 48 hours. I planted roses that week over the soft spot near the hydrangeas where the earth looked disturbed. Every spring they bloomed darker than sin. Clarence died in 89, liver finally surrendered to corn liquor. I buried him in the churchyard with a hymn and no tears. The town pitied poor widow Evie, lost her husband and her only child. I smiled, baked casseroles, joined the quilting circle. Emotion calcified into routine. Dawn coffee on the porch, weeding at dusk, whispering apologies to the roses when no one watched. Grandkids came. My daughter Ruth's 3. They called me Grandma Evie, begged for peach cobbler, dug forts in the yard. I'd panic when they neared the rosebed. Grandma's flowers are special, I'd say, voice trembling, steering them to the swing set. Ruth noticed but never pushed. Mothers learn silence young. Nights were hardest. I'd sit in Tommy's room, unchanged, guitar still propped in the corner, playing his favourite records low so neighbours wouldn't hear. Nostalgia was a drug. The scratch of vinyl, the way he'd mimic Elvis's hip shake, promising me backstage passes. Grief is a weed. It chokes everything else. Last fall the county mailed a letter. Sewer expansion, eminent domain, bulldozers scheduled June 1st. The map showed a red line slicing straight through my rosebed. Panic clawed my chest like a trapped bird. I started digging myself. Midnight, lantern swinging, arthritis screaming in every knuckle. At 2 feet down, my shovel clanged against something hard, a child's sneaker, red canvas, laces still tied, Tommy's name inked inside the tongue. Then bone. Small. Delicate. I collapsed, earth in my mouth, screaming silent into the dirt until dawn painted the sky the colour of dried blood. Sheriff's deputies arrived with coffee and caution tape. Forensic tents rose like white ghosts over my garden. I sat on the porch in Clarence's old rocker, 80 years heavy on my bones, watching them unearth my boy piece by piece. They found him wrapped in Clarence's work shirt, faded plaid, still flecked with 50-year-old tobacco. Dental records confirmed Thomas James Harlow, age 14. Cause of death, massive skull fracture, consistent with blunt force. The town reeled like a drunk on Sunday. Old-timers remembered Clarence's temper, the storm, the way he'd bragged at the VFW about teaching respect. A retired deputy, dying of emphysema, confessed on recorded video. Clarence stumbled in soaked, muttering, "Boy won't sass no more." A bottle of old Grandad and the sheriff's handshake buried it. Emotion broke me open like a seed pod. Grief, rage, relief in one breath. Revenge wasn't a fist, it was truth finally exhaling. I handed over Clarence's journals hidden behind the water heater, drunken scrawls in faded ink. Aug 12. Tommy took my money, hit him with the shovel handle, didn't mean to kill him. Buried him with the roses so Evelyn stays. God forgive. Page after page of guilt and gin. Justice, 50 years late, felt like absolution and indictment at once. I testified in a wheelchair, voice steady despite the tremor. I watered lies with tears, I told the judge. Let the truth bloom now. Clarence's casket was exhumed for DNA, shirt fibres matched. The county issued a public apology, paid to reroute the sewer, funded a memorial garden, Tommy's place with benches, butterfly bushes, a bronze plaque. In memory of Tommy Harlow, whose light outlives lies. I held a funeral on what would have been his 65th birthday. Open casket with a photo, Tommy at 14, grinning beside his guitar. Grandkids released monarchs. Ruth sang "I'll Fly Away" in his key. I scattered his ashes among the rose roots. "Sing loud up there, baby," I whispered, soil cool between my fingers. The roses bloom redder than ever. Children play where nightmares once rooted. I teach them guitar on the porch, tell them Aunt Ruth's brother watches from the petals. Nostalgia softened into something I can hold without bleeding. 80 years and I learned justice ain't always a gavel. It's sometimes a trowel, turning poisoned soil into fertile ground. Revenge would have rotted me from the inside. Truth let the light in. I sleep now without checking locks, dream of Tommy's centre stage, spotlight bright as fireflies. There, the whole heavy, beautiful truth. If I leave you with anything, it's this. Secrets are seeds. Plant them in lies and they choke you. Plant them in honesty and they feed generations. So tell me, darlings, what secret have you carried too long? Lay it gentle in the comments. Tommy's Garden has room for every story. Thank you for holding this old woman's heart today. Go plant something true.